Hi, and welcome to Rate That Album, the back and forth album review featuring myself, Paul Muad'Dib, and as always with me, my longtime unacquainted love interest, Joe Fremming. Joe, how you doing, sir?
With that attitude, you better hit the fucking road and piss up a rope, Paul.
That's right, people. We're doing Ween's 12 Golden Country Greats. This one's going to be a little bit different because usually the one who brings up the album talks a lot about kind of what was going on. And I want to take the time because we typically don't go back and revisit bands. And both Joe and I are huge Ween fans, are we not, sir?
Oh, yeah. I love me Ween. They're offshoots and everything. So
we're going to really kind of get into a lot about them and kind of talking about it. So this is going to be a little bit less of a, I think, back and forth and more of us just really discussing what is Ween. And this is their fourth album. Excuse me, their fifth studio album, their third with Elektra Records. And it's quite a departure from what they've done before, wouldn't you say, Joe?
Yeah. These guys, it's hard to put them into a genre because they kind of do everything. And so, like, when they did the country album, it's kind of like, well, that makes sense. Not many bands you can say that about. Where you're going to take a hard left from weird psychedelia to, like, an album that just blends every genre, like chocolate and cheese.
Yes.
Like The Mollusk, which is just like this weird tripped out fucking journey.
One of my favorite albums by them, by the way. I think that's my top album of theirs is The Mollusk. Now, would you say how do I want to ask this question? Well, let me start with this. What was your first exposure to Ween? What do you remember the first time that you saw Ween? Because I think we're going to have the same.
I'd probably Beavis and Butthead. I think the video on Beavis and Butthead was probably the first time. I don't remember the song, but I remember being like, these guys are fucking rad.
There was two. They were featured on Beavis and Butthead twice. It was Pushing Up Daisies.
Pushing Up Daisies.
And then it was Can't Put My Finger on It. Those were the two that were, and I had that one. But then, do you remember MTV's Oddities?
Yeah,
they did a song off Mollusk, and I think that's really when I really got into Ween, was watching them do a live version of Mutilated Lips. On there was just, it blew my mind, and I was in love with it. Yeah. That was like the single. When your single's Mutilated Lips, you know you're in an interesting band.
Yeah. So I knew about them, but I didn't really start listening to them till like after 2000. After high school is when I started really kind of getting into them more. Just because of whatever. But I do remember one of the first times I saw the band Fish. They covered "Roses Are Free."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. They, I got into Ween because my sister, when Chocolate and Cheese came out, that was 94. So we were middle school? And 13. So my sister was 17. My oldest sister was 17. And she was listening to the Dead Milkmen, They Might Be Giants, Ween, the Vandals, all this kind of, joke rock, punk rock type of things, The thing with Ween, though, and is the difference, I think, that separates them from some of the other that would be kind of in their category is, I think of all the groups, they're by far the best musicians. Their musicianship is unrivaled. These are people that can really write a song and actually can play a multitude of instruments. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and what I like Ween too, kind of like backpedal back to when we talked about Sparks, is one of those bands like Sparks where they have a sense of humor, but they're not considered a joke band. You know what I mean? Like, This is not like, you listen to it's easy to probably think 12 country hits is like a joke album, but it's not.
Yeah.
In some senses, and it is in other senses. Like, obviously Mr. Richard Smoker is a
It's a joke.
Not only is it my favorite go-to at the bar, in a hick bar.
Yep. I mean, they do, and we'll get in. Like, so let's talk a little bit more about this particular album. So in this one, they decided they're going to do a country band album, and they brought in a lot of musicians in this, Joe. And this is where your expertise kind of comes into play, because you know some of these people better than I do. Sorry for the noise.
A lot of these are like Nashville, like legends. Some of them, like these are like people who cut their teeth, in that, in the country music genre, and it's just kind of funny that because they take it seriously, and again, like, a lot of these songs like are really ridiculous, but like they play it straight. And these guys, I don't know how Ween got them to play on songs like "Piss Up a Rope,"
or "Help Me Scrape the Mucus Off My Brain."
Yeah. Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Or even like Japanese Cowboy.
Yeah,
there's this weird sense of humor. Lyrical content really doesn't match with, because let's just face it, Nashville's a very conservative, button down area with, especially, and the musicians are very, like straight laced kind of people, like at least professionally, a lot of them raise hell after show or whatever.
After show.
Just like any band, but like, so it's funny seeing the list of people on this album.
Well, like the Jordanaires, who did work with Elvis. You got Charles
Spiker.
Yeah, Buddy Spiker. Yep. You got Charles McCoy, who worked with Bob Dylan and Elvis as well.
Yeah, a lot of these people played with Elvis. Robert Ford Ogden. Mm-hmm. Like it's and like so they. For a while, there was an album too. Like after this, it was a live album with because this band is called, I believe, the Shit Kickers.
The Shit Kickers, yes, sir.
Yeah. So there was a live album, but you could only get it on vinyl.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my girlfriend at the time, like in 2008, like she bought it, and I was just like, because I didn't know like a lot of the history, but like the liner notes on that live album kind of explained more. I wish I still had it or whatever, because they kind of give a lot more of the backstory of how they got these guys, but they brought them on tour.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like, and so like that live album, God, there's like interpretations of some of their other songs. Oh, I'll look that up, but
yeah, look that up.
But it's fucking great. Shit Creek Boys.
Shit Creek Boys. That's it. The Shit Creek Boys. Yes, you're right. And they got Pig Robbins, who was a session musician for Dolly Parton, Patti Page, Kenny Rogers, Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Charlie Rich. I mean, you would not think that they'd be running around, doing this. Yeah,
it came out in '96. It's live in Toronto, Canada, featuring the Shit Creek Boys, where they do country versions of spinal meningitis. Pushing the Little Daisies, Buenos Tardes Amigo. Like, it's the HIV song Piano Man. Like, yeah, so it's a really good live album. I think it's probably streaming, but so if you haven't heard that, check it out. It's really good.
Now, let's talk, since again, we don't really go back, and Ween is something that I really like to enjoy. Let's talk about some of their songs outside of this album, because you have songs, as you mentioned, spinal meningitis. You got the HIV song. The HIV song, Mr. Would You Please Help My Pony? Voodoo Lady, Buenos Tardes Amigos. I mean, really, Chocolate and Cheese is one that I think is like their mainstream. Like that's where a lot of this stuff.
That's where most people know, but they have yeah. That Live in Toronto is streaming, by the way.
Yep. Push the little J.
Yeah. So Chocolate and Cheese. My favorite album by them is White Pepper.
White Pepper's a great album
because Bananas and Blow
Bananas and Blow is a great song.
Stroker Ace.
Stroker Ace, which I think was covered by Mike Patton at one point.
Yeah, it's because it's like a Motorhead-ish song. Like that album goes from like, because it's very Beatles-esque, and then it goes into like Stroker Aces, which is like, feels like Ace of Spades out of nowhere.
Yes. See, and for me, I have to say it's the Mollusk, because I love dancing in the show tonight. Going into the Mollusk, I'll be your Johnny on the spot. Blarney Stone, mutilated lips. It's gonna be all right. Cold wind blows. Pink eye on my leg. Buckingham Green, Ocean Man. I just, for me, that one front to back, it has that Irish flair, that Irish punk flair to it in that album, and I'm a sucker for anything Irish punk. So. But instead, we're going to talk about 12 Golden Country Greats, which has 10 great songs on this album.
Yeah. Well, let's also, because there is a Minnesota connection. It's that one of their first albums, God, Ween, Satan.
Which is their first album. That's their first studio.
Yeah. It was put on Twin Tone Records.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I
Twin
did
Tone
not
also
know
put
that.
out Replacements and I think some early Husker Du, The Suburbs, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
That one didn't really have a whole lot of hits on it, that first one, God, Ween, Satan.
No, it's just a weird album, but, like, Twin Tone's not exactly,
Yep.
Not exactly a huge...
And same thing with Pod. Pod, I think, for me, there's a couple of songs on there. Strap on that jammy pack. Polo Asado. I love Polo Asado. That's like one of my favorite songs by them. Then Pure Guava is really when they hit their stride, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Pure Guava.
Yeah.
The Pod stuff on there I like, but yeah.
Yeah. Because you had Poop Ship Destroyer, Push the Little Daisies, which got them a lot of mainstream attention. Flies on My Dick. Hey Fat Boy. So we can't talk about Ween really without getting into a PC discussion. Because when we get into especially this album here, first of all, Joe, let's talk about the songs you don't like on this album. Is there a song you don't like on this album?
There's albums that just don't do a lot. It's basically it's like Powder Blue. I really don't care for. Pretty Girl kind of the same way, but yeah, just like those songs kind of feel like filler. But otherwise, I love the album. So 8 out of 10 of the 12 songs,
Well, there's an interesting story about Powder Blue. Which is Gene introduces every member of the band, who then plays a short solo of their instrument. The original version of that song runs 4 minutes 16 seconds, and it ends with a sample from Muhammad Ali. Now, Ween was denied the use of the sample by Ali's lawyers, but Elektra accidentally pressed it. I put out that version on the first pressing of the album. Now, everything subsequently cuts that and puts the song at 3 minutes 13 seconds by removing all of that. But on the very first pressing of the album, it was originally a minute longer, and had a version of it that got him in trouble with Muhammad Ali. Yeah,
well, of course, par for the course with Ween,
Yeah, par for the course for Ween, and so I'm Holding You is great. It's a great opener. Yeah. Then you get so Japanese.
This is where PC here, where I'm surprised they haven't been canceled for Japanese Cowboy.
Japanese Cowboy. Let's talk about first of all, we got to talk about the lyrics for this right off the bat. Like a Japanese cowboy or a brother on skates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
I feel like it's more making fun of, kind of shitty rednecks and their mentality than actually being, shitting
I'm with you.
People,
Yes, I'm ready with you. I mean, this is more poking fun at the culture than it is. Yeah, it's satire. It's satire.
Same with Piss Up a Rope is obviously a satire. Like they took like these things from classic country themes, woman doesn't like you, blah blah blah. Yep. She's leaving, but it's like on steroids. Like dinner's on fire while she watches TV.
Yes. Breakfast at Shawnee's at $2.99. And then piss up a rope. So get on your knees, you big booty bitch, start sucking. Yeah. I mean, there is some un-PC stuff on here. So I'm gonna say that if
Mr.
you can't
Richard Smoker.
Oh, Richard, yeah. Mr. Richard Smoker.
Dark meat.
Yeah. Mr. Richard Smoker, you're a poopy poker. Yeah, I mean, it's juvenile. It's that one I don't know so much as satire as it was just a sign of the times. So, I could see people being offended by Richard Smoker, but let me tell you something, man. You're absolutely right. I've done it for karaoke. I
like hick bars all the time, and to very hilarious results. Because I'll start with Piss Up a Rope, which people are just like very confused, and then Mr. Richard Smoker just upsets them.
Is it the booty bop boop in the beginning? The scat man, the scat references. Booty bop boop, booty bop boop, booty bop boop. Yeah. You smoke big dick. Yeah, absolutely. It's this album, I mean, it has no business being as good as it is. And at the same time, knowing Ween, it is actually going to be as good as you think.
Yeah. And it's weird because I looked at the Wikipedia entry and it mentions, and I never really thought of it, but this is like the only time they kind of stuck to a genre for one album. I never really before I saw that observation, so that's also interesting.
It's very interesting because they don't most of the time when you get into a Ween album, you're going to get into a world of different genres. It's going to go right from one to the other to the other to the other. And I mean, to be fair, Mr. Richard Smoker isn't really a country song as it is more of a lounge crooning song in my mind. It isn't until you get to the solo that it becomes a country song. That's me. What are your favorites?
Oh, Piss Up a Rope, Japanese Cowboy, Fluffy.
Fluffy. I love Fluffy.
I was listening. I haven't heard this album in a few years, and I was driving back from the store, and Fluffy came on, and I just started fucking laughing my head.
Oh, me too. I was in the car listening to this as we were going out to a cabin, and Fluffy came on, and my kids were laughing. I was laughing. Yeah. Fluffer. But yeah, I mean, it hits all the tropes. It hits the nothing goes right. I miss my girl. My girl's mean to me. I got my. I think the only thing they don't really hit is the broken car aspect of it, or not losing my truck. But they got the dog in there. They got all that stuff. Even and I'm not a country fan in the slightest, and I can listen to this album front to back. Again, you're right. Pretty Girl, Powder Blue, those you could throw out, like, that's fine. But I mean, you gotta. I mean, and one of the things that we bitch about tracks not flowing right. This album flows very very well.
Well, that's the thing with Ween. They know how to track their albums, which is like, because if you're gonna be hitting all those genres, it's kind of like what we were talking about the last episode with like a mixtape. And with Ween, it's very much like a mixtape since they're like all over the map. So they have to be good at that, because otherwise, if you play Chocolate and Cheese out of like sequence, it would be a confusing mess.
It is a confusing mess. I've actually done a shuffle of Ween songs. I'm like,
It's jarring, isn't it?
It's jarring. That's the correct word for it. It's jarring. It sucks. Yeah, absolutely.
The songs are good, but they when they don't flow, it really makes it just not work as well.
Yes, 1,000,000%, completely agree with you. It just doesn't work. It works best. Ween works best when you listen to it album by album by album. Yep. And they are, that's one of those things that it's a lost art. You and I have talked about that, right? Yep. And yet Ween does very, very well in keeping the art form of the album very much alive.
Yeah, they know how to keep it not only working but keeping your interest in it too. They hook. I mean, like Mr. Richard Smoker comes out of nowhere, man. Like fuck.
Yeah, it comes at you out of
right after a very mellow powder blue song. Also,
Mr. Richard Smoker. Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Bruce and Jeff will pick you up at 10. Dancing in your Buster Browns. It's genius. So I guess at this point, we have these difficulties when we do these albums that we like and we do things are not quite as we don't have a whole lot more to say other than, I guess, would you recommend this album, Joe?
Yeah, I love it. Ween, there's albums by Ween I don't like. It is a lot of their later stuff. Like after White Pepper, they get very hit and miss with me. But like from Mollusk and Chocolate and Cheese up until that, it's almost all perfect albums. They knocked them all out of the park.
Yeah, which is really interesting because if you listen to their first two albums, especially Pod, you kind of sit back and go, who the fuck are these guys and who gave them access to a studio?
It just sounds like people on acid making weird shit.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
It very much could be the case.
Probably. But yeah, no, I mean, not to sit there and say that they're bad or, oh my God, I hate the album or whatever. I mean, again, there's things I like on both albums. But at the same time, it's not consistent like it was with chocolate. Once they hit their stride with Chocolate and Cheese, into Mollusk, into Paint the Town Brown, which is the live album, Craters of the Sack, which has a nut sack for the record title, and then White Pepper. White Pepper, man, I think got lost on a lot of people. I personally love White Pepper.
I know a lot of people didn't like it for whatever reason, but I enjoyed it. And
I will admit, I enjoyed Quebec. A lot of people, Quebec didn't really do it, but like Transdermal Celebration, Zoloft, Hey There Fancy Pants, Happy Colored Marbles, I like that. I liked Quebec.
Yeah, I didn't, but that's just, again, it's just like it's just a matter of taste. I think it's
Shinola is really where it loses me.
Yeah, that I couldn't. It's nope.
Yep. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because, as you know, selfishly, I'm going to go see Ween this month. I've been hanging on these tickets forever, and I'm going to go see Ween. So I wanted to do, selfishly, an album of a band I'm going to go see. So, yes, if I were to say, can I recommend this album? I'm hoping they'll play a lot of songs off this album. I would love to see a live version of Fluffy. Fluffer. I would totally kill to see a live version of Fluffy. All right, that's all I think we really got for this one, unless you got more to say on it, Joe.
No, I love this album. It's so good.
It's great. I mean, now, look, I guess let's talk about the reception. Let's talk a little bit about the reception, because the reviews were mostly positive.
Fans were kind of confused when it came out. I remember that. I remember people were they didn't get it. Yep. I guess I was so unaware of what Ween was doing at this time that I was just sure. They put out a cut. They weren't on my radar really anymore after I saw Pushing Daisies on Beavis and Butthead. And so it was just like, I just remember kind of people were like, yeah, this kind of, but it's also like when Pinkerton came, I was like, yeah, this sucks. And it's like, well, I don't listen to that, so I'm just going to have to take your word for it.
Right. And I don't know. I'm going to sit there. I mean, you could sit there and call Mr. Richard Smoker. There's been a lot of, that's one of the things that got harped on even back then, was it being, considered homophobic. And Dean and Gene have gone on the record talking about that before. Entertainment Weekly hated the album when it came out, describing it as homophobic, misogynist, racist, and gave the album a C-. So the satire was completely lost on Entertainment Weekly. And
bastions of intellectual analysis, Entertainment Weekly didn't get it.
Right. Now, Sputnik Music said they're writing about songs with similar themes to what country songs have been writing about, but including a personal touch of what the band does best. So, like, Sputnik Music got it. But yes, you're right. Fans were confused about what this was, which I think is hilarious. But you just gotta let Ween do what Ween's gonna do. Ween is gonna Ween. That's all there is to it.
Is not really understood either. Like,
no,
a lot of, like, again, like when we talk about Pinkerton, people didn't like it, but it's a cult, became a cult, and now it's like the known album for, it's just like sometimes people just, especially in the 90s, people are expecting weirdness, or like Chocolate and Cheese, or like stupid grunge bullshit. And it's just,
yep. I was going to say, most people expected grunge.
Anyway, it probably was not well received.
No, I'll completely agree with you. In the 90s, there was a set of what you expected shit to be. And, I think prime example of that was Nirvana's Unplugged, right? A lot of people had an expectation of what that was going to be. And when it went completely against expectations, and people realized that, like, I remember hearing the things, Kurt Cobain can actually sing. The fuck does that mean? Right? Yes, the guy fronted the band. Of course he can sing. So millions of records. Of course the man can sing. You mean he can sing the way you want him to sing? Okay, maybe now you're talking about something, you dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But
it's like that expectations. When you defy the expectations, I think that's when, especially critics come down hard on that.
Yeah. So, all right, Joe. What are we doing next week?
Well, you inspired me to get off the PC train here, Paul. So we're going to a little album from the early 90s. Kind of a super group of industrial rock. It's a band called Revolting Cocks, and we're going to listen to Beer, Steers, and Queers.
Oh, boy. We're okay. I'm not familiar with this album at all.
Al Jorgensen from Ministry and a bunch of other.
I'm looking forward to this. So, what is this called? The Revolting Cocks?
Yeah, Revolting Cocks is the name of the band.
All right.
The album is Beer, Steers, and Queers. And this is an interesting band in that they have like just about anybody who's like alternative rock for the most part has worked with this band. They've had Gibby Haynes from Butthole Surfers, Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. Like they've had, it's kind of like a really, like, they should be more well known than they are.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this Revolting Cocks band that you're talking about. That's awesome. All right, Joe, what's going on with the Joe Down for prosperity's sake?
We're going to be watching The Purge next.
Oh.
I don't think I've watched the original. I watched the Election Day one, like, whatever. bunch of people just kill each other for 24 hours. It's not much of a.
It's mindless.
Yeah,
it's mindless.
I don't feel like I have to invest too much into the plot.
No. As of this recording, the Phil Collins episode just went live. So for those of you that are keeping track of how far behind we are and when things are coming out, we're just getting the Phil Collins album going. I called it season 2, given the lag of what we did. I was like, you know what? This is a good time. Created a new theme song for the podcast, and now we're on season 2.
What do you think about the Phil Collins? That was recorded before there was a vaccine, people.
Yeah. It was recorded before there was a vaccine, actually. Mm-hmm. Fuck. I mean, that's why it's season 2. Post, pre and post. So yeah, other than that, Joe, I would say that's what we're doing there. I want to get the Stranger Things one going again. I just got to find time with Griffiny, so we could get that done, because season 4 sounds like it's going to drop sooner than people think, from what I was reading today on Stranger Things. So that would be interesting. And I also, inspired by the Joe Down, watched Mandy for the first time.
Oh, what'd you think?
Well, I was amazed that Elijah Wood was the executive producer on it.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
It's kind of strange. That blew my mind. Truth be told, I was a little disappointed.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, for a revenge film, I want a little more revenge. I felt like, the first hour, I mean, the revenge doesn't really kick in. It's a 2-hour-long movie. The first hour is building up, and then the second hour is the revenge. The one thing I wish they would have explained was the world a little better.
Yeah.
In it. So.
Well,
yeah.
Now that you've watched that, maybe down the road we can listen to the album Lift It Down by Jeremiah Sand. Yeah, they did a whole album years after the movie came out by the actor who played the cult leader.
Oh, fuck me.
Year. What?
I said, oh, fuck me.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, Joe, do you want to take us out today?
No.
Joe